It's Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours. Thank you so much for joining us for our Saturday live stream. We Our guest speaker's having a little bit of trouble getting on, so we'll wait for him. But meanwhile, I just want to give a little bit of background. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Jackie Lang, the owner of Panama Relocation Tours, and we specialize in helping people have a smooth, hassle-free move to Panama and avoiding mistakes, which we're going to talk about during this live stream, is avoiding mistakes and things that you might do that could end up costing you $2, $3, $4, $5,000 extra that you don't absolutely don't need to spend if you follow the advice that we share. So we love to hear where you're from. We see Monique from London. She's here every single Saturday. That's great. Just a second. Let me see if we can get our guest Bryan on. He'll be here in just a minute. The things that we do at Panama Relocation Tours to help you have a smooth move is we offer an all-inclusive 6-day, 7-night Panama Relocation Tour that takes you all over the country. And the whole time the bus is moving from one location to another, it's like a rolling seminar of us teaching you how to get a visa, how to get your pets here, where do you go for health insurance, how do you buy a car, and all the things that you need to do so that whenever you get here, you know exactly what to do and you don't have any apprehension about moving to Panama. We also offer private tours. If you're just interested in one particular area and don't want to see the whole country, you can always take a private tour of just one particular area for 1 or 2 or 3 days. And we offer something called our online guide, also called the Complete Panama Relocation Guide, which has the same kind of information you would get during the tour, but it's all in a home study course, so you can learn at your own pace. Now, I think that my guest speaker is here. I'm not seeing him. Let me see. Nope, not seeing him yet. I'm going to go off screen. Let me send him a WhatsApp real quick. I'll be right back. Yeah, this technology stuff is great whenever it works right. Actually, yesterday here in Boquete, my son and daughter-in-law came in and the power went out before I went to go pick them up, and it was out for part of the day yesterday. And then I've been having internet problems ever since. I think we have Bryan, our guest speaker. And so I'm still having some internet problems. Luckily, because my son's here, he knows how to hardwire my computer directly into the router. So that's how I'm able to present this live stream. But I don't have any Wi-Fi, but at least I can do the live stream. So Bryan, I see you now. Can you hear me okay? Let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. I can't hear you. Yep. Let me send him a WhatsApp again. Bryan, say something. Okay. Bryan, tell us a little bit of background about yourself. Nope, we lost him. Anyway, we're going to keep on working on that. I tell you what, while we're waiting on Bryan to get here, he'll be back in just a little bit. Just let me give you a little bit of background about some of the things that we can help you avoid costly mistakes with. One of those is getting a visa. You know, some attorneys here in Panama, they can charge whatever they want to charge, and some attorneys charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for one person to get a pensionado visa. The attorneys that we work with charge about $1,000, $1,200, maybe $1,500 at the most for you to get a pensionado visa. And it's just a couple $100 more if you're married and you want to add your spouse to it. But some attorneys charge as much as $4,000 for one person, and maybe another $4,000 for a second person. So picking the wrong attorney is one way that you can definitely cost yourself a lot of money. Another way that you can avoid costly mistakes is picking the right insurance agents. I ran into a situation I guess it was about 2018, 2019. I had my health insurance with this certain company in Panama, and I'd been happy with them because I didn't know any better. The prices seemed just right. But whenever my son moved here to Panama, I asked the insurance agent if they would give me a quote for him to get insurance. And surprisingly, the quote was much more than mine was. And I was twice his age. It was much more than mine. And the agent said, oh, the prices have really gone up a lot. And I said, but this just doesn't make any sense. He's I just don't think that the price is right. Can you double check? And they said, yep, that's the price. But I contacted the insurance company directly, and this was an international health insurance. And I got a quote that was $2,500 less than the insurance agent had quoted us. So I'm going to take Bryan off screen again until he gets everything working. So picking the wrong immigration attorney, some of the big name companies charge quite a bit of money. And some of the insurance agents charge quite a bit of money. Let's get Bryan to try again. Hey, Bryan, can you say something? Talk to me. He's just not hearing me. Yep. So that's one way. The other thing that you can do that can end up costing too much money, and we've talked about this before, is sometimes if you go with some insurance companies, some real estate companies, they do what's called a net listing. And that's a good example of that is, let's say that the owner of the property says, I want to lease my house for, $700 a month. And the insurance agent tells you $800 a month so that they can make extra profit off of your rent each and every month. Another situation we ran into with my son whenever he moved here is he looked at one rental property, and I believe it was a 2-bedroom for $695, maybe $795. I don't remember the exact numbers. This was quite some time ago. And they decided not to rent that property because it was quite close to the road, and he was afraid if his dog got out that the dog could get in the street and be hit by a car. So they didn't go with that rental. Later that same day, he saw an ad on Facebook, I believe, and it was a 2-bedroom for $895. So it was more money. And it said, approximate location was a little bit north of Boquete. And he went and looked at it. It was the exact same property, but that insurance agent was charging, the real estate agent was charging $200 more than the price that the owner was charging for the very same property that we saw during the day. So picking the right immigration attorney, picking the right real estate agents, picking the right insurance company to work with, picking the right car broker. A car broker is someone that you can tell them, I want to buy this particular car and I don't want to spend more than $10,000. You might say a small SUV, automatic transmission, preferably diesel, but gasoline's okay. And you say, I want to keep my budget under $10,000. So some car brokers they'll find a great car, but they'll jack up the price a couple $1,000s so they can make a bigger profit. Other car brokers might make a $500 profit to help you get the right car and deliver it to you. So picking the right car broker is another way that you can avoid costly mistakes. Let's see if we've got Bryan on here now. Hey, Bryan.
Hello.
Ah, we got you. Good. Now we can hear you. So thank you so much. So I was just giving everybody a little bit of an overview about things you can do in Panama that can end up costing you extra money and things you can do to avoid mistakes. So we didn't have a chance to chat a little bit before we went live with this live stream. Why don't you give everybody just a little bit of background about you and then tell them how you made a wrong choice that ended up costing you some extra money.
Yeah.
And it would be probably better not to name names because we don't want to get in any kind of trouble with anybody, but you can just give a little bit of background yourself on what happened to you that ended up costing you $2,000, more than $2,000 more than
like $3.
Yeah.
And a couple of times, So my name is Bryan Crank, and I am a U.S. Army veteran. I moved out to Costa Rica about 9 years ago.
Hold the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth. I'm not hearing you very well.
Okay.
There we go.
Is that better?
Much better, yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Bryan Crank, and I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I moved down to Costa Rica about 9 years ago. Um, Everything was going great. I would do the border runs every 90 days. Um, I get my medical through a program called the Foreign Medical Program at the VA, so I'm a little fortunate to get a lot of medications and private medical care in Costa Rica for free, because the public medical system down here is like a nightmare.
I've heard.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get cut open in Costa Rica. Get on the flight and risk it getting back to Miami or Texas. But so I started having some medical issues with respiratory failures. I have really bad COPD from all the burn pit smoke and all the stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the doctor here really started taking care of me, gave me an oxygen concentration machine that the VA didn't even pay him for. There's things down here where the doctors do for you that you don't get in the United States. They don't have, it's not like an insurance, like you're going to sue them, so they can actually help you with things and give you advice for stuff. And I believe that's in Panama too. So that was all going well, and then COVID hit. The doctor had been taking care of me, and then COVID hit, and I really didn't have an option. I couldn't travel. They wouldn't give me the vaccine here, even though the U.S. Embassy was giving like 1 million doses. They would not give it to me because I was not in their healthcare system in Costa Rica. So I was really stuck, because I'm already have an oxygen machine at home, and I can't get the injection. I wasn't really wanting it anyway, but because I had pretty bad respiratory condition already, I was just considering it. And once the quarantine lifted, they had started restrictions in Costa Rica where you weren't even going to be able to go into a bank or public area or anything if you didn't have a certification. So I really didn't have an option at that point. I flew back to Vegas and got an injection and came back. And that's when I started the immigration process in Costa Rica, because I didn't want to be doing the 90-day border runs and all that stuff anymore, with what I thought was a big risk at the time. And then so I just ended up going with a legal firm here that was very popular with expats coming down to Costa Rica. They also have a law firm in Panama, and they have a partner law firm in Miami. And they were very popular. They did so many things. Really nice place, great people. Just bad management with the finance. And during that process of my Costa Rica residency application, the Caja here is the medical system doubled the tax. So the lawyers sent me an email saying that they doubled the tax, and I was going to end up having to pay $620 something a month out of my pension from the United States military. And I was like, you're crazy. That's insane. Even the United States doesn't tax my money, And I already have private medical care. So the lawyer said there was nothing they could do about it. And I said, well, if you have a firm in Panama, just switch my stuff up to Panama. So they moved me down to Panama. And the big benefit with Panama is that pensionado visa for me was, there's so many discounts and benefits to it that really attract, especially if you plan on buying a little piece of land or building something. They have some mortgage rate stuff that's really good. And that's kind of my plan maybe down the road. But right now, Panama was being very strict with the border runs. So in Costa Rica, every 90 days, you have to go to Panama or Nicaragua and get a new stamp in your passport. The expats down here refer to that as a border run. And Nicaragua was being difficult before, and Panama was the easiest. And then it kind of switched at some point a few years ago. And Panama became strict and requiring people to stay overnight at the border. So with the visa, it helps me. Now I can just go across, do some shopping, and come back, and it's not going to matter with the Panama stuff anymore. It makes it back to that easy state where I can go across, do some shopping, come back, and renew my Costa Rica visa. They did have a thing in Panama for a while, I was told by the lawyer, where they said if you do that, when you leave out of Panama, they say you have to stay for 30 days. But I'll be staying for I stay in Costa Rica for 90 to the next border run, so it works out well for me. So there was some little benefits.
So did you get a residency visa in Costa Rica and
No.
you got one? No, you just got one in Panama.
Yeah, I was in the process of Costa Rica, and then once the Caja doubled the tax, I said, "Well, I'm not doing it." I said, I asked the law firm. I said, "I've already paid them. I already paid them everything. I flew back to the States twice to get documents. So, I mean, it really added up to be about around 6,000 I spent on that whole process, and then um, once I once they emailed me and told me the Caja double tax, I said, "Well, you guys have a firm in Panama. Just keep my money, but transfer me down there." And that was a big mistake because most other people asked for refunds, and the first group of people that asked got refunds, but then they ran out of money. And so they just kind of closed up shop. They gave all their paperwork to another law firm and said, "Hey, there's nothing we can do to help you. Um, this is a law firm that has all the paperwork and all our cases, so contact them. They'll be able to help you. They'll give you discounts and all this stuff." And then from what I heard from other people was that, because I just counted it as a loss and wrote it off, but for a lot of people, they followed through with that other firm and said that there was no discounts and they wanted more money for their services. And so a lot of people were really upset. And that's when I called my buddy, Jonil, who had just moved down to Panama a few months before me. And I said, "Hey, you got your stuff done in Panama in a couple months. Who did you use?" So he referred me to another veteran buddy named Will and his wife Carol. And that's when I called them. And that night I emailed them my documents that I had here. I didn't have an apostille. And they were able to get it an authentication done within a week. So they said, "Get here in 2 weeks and you're ready." So they got my stuff done. I got there in 2 weeks, and I had all my paperwork submitted. I had a little bit of an advantage where the Navy at the embassy in the VA, our pension letters are not signed, so we can't get them apostilled. So at the Panama embassy, there's a Navy commander with the Pacific Command there that represents the United States at the embassy. And he wrote a letter for me explaining that I'm a veteran and I have a pension. And he stamped it, authenticated it from the embassy, and signed it. And I was able to use for my proof of pension. So because of that, it kind of made it a little easier for me to get my paperwork in. And then some people deal with a lot of issues with that stuff. But just because I had that little bit of an advantage, it made it so easy for us. But the other law firm never helped me with any of that. They didn't. They were just like, "You have to get everything apostilled," and it was a nightmare getting everything done on time. The documents kept coming back at different times, and then one would expire, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, and we've heard the same thing from other people, and not just the law firm that, that all of a sudden they're working on your case and all of a sudden they go out of business. That happens sometimes here, but also, immigration attorneys that they take your money and then they're always saying, "Well, we need a little bit more for this and we need a little bit more for that." And it just adds up and adds up. And it's kind of like, how much do we think we can get out of this guy? That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's nice to work with people that that they're honest and ethical, and that they're just going to help you, that they know all the ins and outs of different things, to get that letter from the Navy commander that could go ahead and authenticate everything without having to fly back to the United States again to get other documents. So you're still living in Costa Rica, but you have a Panama visa that makes it impossible for you to go back and forth without
staying overnight.
Without staying overnight. So that's good. You ever plan to move to Panama?
Yeah, I plan, but my girlfriend right now, we've been together for a few years. We just her son and her and a little bit me, we started a clothing boutique selling like prom dresses and wedding dresses and stuff. I live in a city in Heredia in Costa Rica. It's really nice here, the weather. But we started a little boutique. So we're going to see how that goes probably for a few years. And then once that's done, that's probably our plan, is to move down to Panama.
Right. So, working with the right people makes such a big difference here. And, working with people that know how to get things done makes a really big difference. That's why in our complete Panama relocation guide, we have a list of recommended immigration attorneys. And Will, Carol, they're in there. They're recommended in there, and all the other attorneys that were recommended. It's like when they walk into immigration, it's like the sea opens up, and they just, they can walk in, they get things done. They say, "Oh, you're here. Stamp, stamp. Here you go. Here's your visa." And that's what you need whenever you come to Canada. You just need somebody that has been at this long enough that they know how to get things done, that they have the influence to get you to the front of the line, and just do whatever it takes to get your visa and negotiate a discount for you, instead of always trying to charge extra things. So I'm glad you got hooked up with the right people after such a horrible experience. You said you lost, probably spent $6,000 on.
Twice I had to go back for documents, and one of the times was because that law firm had a section called document services where you can pay them to get your documents, and I did that, and they were charging $250 a document, and they never submitted the request for my birth certificate. So
But see, you don't even need a birth certificate in Panama.
No, I know it was very easy there, but
a birth certificate.
For Costa Rica, you needed one, and so I never received an email from California Secretary of State saying that they received the request and they would get it to me in however much time. They'll always send an email once they get that, and so after a few months, I emailed them and I said, "Hey, they still haven't received the payment for the birth certificate," and I said my documents were due in like 6 months from that point. And then she said, "Oh, it takes time with California sometimes." And then after like 2 months before, I said, "Hey, I still haven't got an email. There's something wrong." And I said, "In their website saying it's taking 6 weeks to get them out right now. So if you don't get that into them like this week, it's not going to be in on time to turn in my documents." And they said, "No, we're just waiting on them." And then a week before my documents were due, I got the email. That's when they sent it in. And so I was just so upset already with that. But that delay is what pushed me into that tax raise period. Because if you weren't in that, if you were already in the immigration in Costa Rica before March of, I think, last year, then you didn't have to pay the double tax. But after that date, you were going to have to pay. And I was, and if they would have got my birth certificate on time, I would have had everything done already, and so I would have been a Costa Rica resident right now. But just because of that delay of them not sending the paperwork to the Secretary of State in Nevada, I had to go back to the States and do it myself for that one. And then by the time that stuff got back to them, the FBI report expired. It was just. Yeah, it was crazy. It seemed like they're bilking that system, like charge you for documents over and over and over and over and over again as much as they can. Yeah. It seemed like kind of maybe.
And then not even doing the documents. It's a game that some other attorneys play also. That don't worry, you can just come to Panama even if you don't have any of your documents, and we'll just take care of everything for you. And and then some. They keep charging you money and charging you money. And there's delays and delays, and in the end, you might have your FBI report, but it expires if you don't apply for a visa within 6 months. And if you don't have income verification, then you can't apply. Everything has to happen at exactly the same time. So
exactly,
it's sad. It's sad that you lost so much money, but I'm so glad you got with the right people that helped you get a visa.
Yeah, Will and Carol, awesome. I mean, it was. Honestly, I went in and I used Waze and Uber. I went to their office at their house there, and very kind. Gave me water, everything. Took me to lunch. It was really, really nice experience, and they walk you through everything, and they're on point. They tell you, okay, we're gonna on this date on this day we're gonna do this, and then you're gonna have 2-day break, and then on this day we're going to do this. So they're giving you instruction on when to be there, and they walk you through every step. It was really amazing.
Yeah, it does. And so from the time that you contacted the immigration attorney that we work with, how long did it take you to get your visa? After going through all that rigmarole, how long did it take from the time you contacted them till you got it?
when I called Will, 3 weeks later, I was there, immigration, picking up my car on the Thursday on the third week.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Two weeks later, they had all my documents back, and on the third week, I was there submitting everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, and as a veteran, and then Will's a veteran as well. So they are very kind, and they do have a veterans discount. So it was something that worked out for me, and uh, it was very kind of them, and I really appreciated how they meet you there, walk you through each step, and they're dealing with 4 or 5 clients at a time, and they're able to go back and forth and be kind to everybody and work through it, even though they're dealing with all the stress of arguing with immigration about this and that and all those little things. So it was a pleasure going through that experience in Panama.
Good. Well, and the same veteran benefits that you get in Costa Rica, those are available for you in Panama.
Oh yeah,
So,
I think Butcher.
yes, I know Butcher and
I,
JR.
I, 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 I served in the Army with Butcher's son, Eric.
Okay, yeah, I know all the veteran service officers, and I do
Yeah,
everything I can to help the veterans have,
yeah.
especially veterans, have a smooth move here. But yeah, the veteran
Hmm.
service officers here in Panama,
Hmm.
they're just volunteers. They don't make
Yep.
anything. They bend over backwards to help
Yeah.
you get to Panama, get your visa, get signed up for all the medical benefits you can,
Yep.
and prescriptions that you might need, and
Hmm.
everything. So
It's
that's
really incredible.
it's really incredible. And veteran service officers, they don't make anything. It's their way
Hmm.
to give back.
Yeah.
So many people that helped them when they were moving here, and then they just pass the torch on, and other people are helping veterans move here. And for so
Yeah.
many veterans, it's harder and harder to afford to retire in the United States,
Hmm.
with just your military retirement, even combined with Social Security. So they're finding a safe haven down here in Central America,
Yeah.
Costa Rica, and in Panama, where it's much more affordable. They can get really good medical care,
Hmm.
and get all their benefits from the VA or TRICARE for life, depending on if you're retired or
Yeah.
um, just discharged with a disability.
And there's hospitals and pharmacies all over Panama that provide those services. And
That provide
yep. There's a couple programs for veterans. There's the TRICARE International for retirees, and then there's the Foreign Medical Program for veterans with different medical conditions from their service.
right.
And um, there, from what I've heard in Panama, is when there's issues, Butcher will get on the phone and kind of work things out for people. But down in Costa Rica, it's not really the same. You got to search and find the doctor that's going to help you and do all the stuff, because billing in the United States for doctors down here, it's not the same, especially in Costa
Mhm.
Rica. There's not really private insurance here as much as the rest of the world. So they're not really familiar with getting diagnosis exactly correct or doing the right testing for diagnosis and things like that. So with them, when they write receipts and things like diagnosis, sometimes the VA won't reimburse because it's not the correct thing that they're supposed to be prescribing it for whatever medication for. So having
Right.
the right doctor who understands how to do that billing, and they have them all through Panama, is
Right. We
really
have them
cool.
off in Panama. By the
Yeah.
way, for all of you veterans, you might go to our website, PanamaRelocationTours.com, and in the
Hmm.
upper right corner of the search feature, type in veterans. And we have a lot more information about the services that are available to veterans, whether you're retired or if you were discharged with a disability, and how you can get signed up for some of those programs. We also have a link to all the veteran service officers that are here in Panama. So veterans, I would certainly encourage you to do that. We have a couple of questions that have come in for you, Bryan. Is it
Hmm.
okay if we go over to
Yeah,
those?
sure. Of course.
Okay. It says, Jackie or Bryan, what's been your experience with businesses that are franchised both U.S. and Panama? Google Maps shows many U.S. brands in Panama, gyms, restaurants, etc. So I have there are a lot of franchisers like
Yes.
McDonald's and Wendy's and
Hmm.
Domino's and Papa John's and Krispy Kreme donuts and things
Yeah.
like that. But I have no personal experience with any of them, so I can't
Yeah.
answer that.
Especially me either. I'm not sure, but they're all there. There's gym memberships and franchises. Smart Fit is all over the place. There's a store called Price Mart, which is just the same as like a Costco. So
Costco.
yeah, so even the franchises there that are not the same as the States, they've been replaced with something in Panama that is
Right.
very similar and sells the same products. It's just a different name, probably the same company. They just have to do things under a different country's regulations, and maybe for tax purposes, they have a different name. But PriceSmart is exactly like a Costco, and they have
Right.
everything there.
Now, I can tell you one thing I can tell you is that some towns in Panama, they really don't want a franchise. If you go to some of the big towns like Panama City or David or Santiago, you'll see franchises there. But I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, before I moved here that someone tried to open a Subway shop in Boquete, where I live up in the highlands, and it lasted about 6 months, and people just wouldn't go there because they prefer to go to the mom and pop shops instead. So they went there. So another question, Jackie, do you need a visa prior to taking your tour? You do not need a visa prior to taking your tour. If you're from North America, you can be a tourist in Panama for 180 days. So no visa is necessary. If you decide you want to live in Panama full time or make the border hops easier, like Bryan is doing, then that's when you need to get a visa. So how much does a pensionado visa cost? So what'd you pay for your pensionado visa with Will and Carol?
They give a veterans discount, and it was $1,000. And then
Yeah.
but it's $1,000, and then you pay for the documents, which isn't much. I mean, in Costa Rica, it's a lot. In Panama, it was like $20 here, $40 there, and it was done. But yeah, you pay for your translations, and then you pay for the authentications, and you pay for any of those things. But the fee for them,
it's a couple $100 more.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that much. And with the veterans discount, it was $1,000, which was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
especially after what I just went through.
And if you're not a veteran, it's $1,200 to get a visa. So it's still a super affordable price.
Yeah.
That's if you go with the immigration attorneys that we recommend. If you go with some other attorneys, they charge $2,500, $3,500, $4,000. So you have to, all immigration attorneys can probably get your visa done. Maybe not all of them, but most of them can get your visa done. But you're going to get the very same little visa card, whether you spend $1,000 or whether you spend $3,000. So shop around and get the right price. But the best thing to do is get our online guide, because we know all of those attorneys do a really, really good job on getting your visa. So James says, how to obtain the book? So to help me move there. So it's not really a book. It's actually, everything is all online. If you go to PanamaRelocationTours.com, and at the top part it says online guide, just click on that and read about it, and you'll see what all you get with the online guide. So another question for Angela. If you don't have a visa and have to leave for 180 days, how long do you have to be out of Panama? Technically, you're supposed to be out of Panama for 30 days before you come back. So that's why it's really better to get a visa. Now, if you were to just fly like to Medellin, Colombia, or fly to San Jose, Costa Rica, and if you're flying in, then they'll probably let you in if you're just gone for 3 days. But if you're going to cross the border at the Paso Canoas border, take a bus over, there's been a lot of people that they wouldn't let them back in if they weren't out 30 days. And that's why Bryan got the visa, so that he wouldn't have to deal with those hassles of them not letting him come in or stay out for a length of time.
Yeah, I think they got a new supervisor at the Panama border maybe a year before COVID hit, and everything changed. It used to be the best. You could go in, go out, and they didn't care if you stayed 2 hours, 3 hours. In Nicaragua, they were making you wait and buy stuff at their duty free for like 4 hours. But at some point, probably just a new supervisor came in, and he wanted to go by the book and change some of the stuff. And
they will definitely look at the stamp on what time you went out. So you have to it's better to just get a visa, then you don't have to worry about the border hops. So Bill wants to know tipping. Please provide some general guidelines for tipping on various services. So in Panama, it's customary to give a 10% tip on most things, whether it's a taxi or a restaurant or getting your hair done or whatever it might be. A 10% tip is customary. If you got excellent service, then you might do 15%, but 10% is customary. So Angela wants to know if you don't have a visa and have to leave after, we just did that one. How long do you have to be out? We just did that question. So if anybody has a question for Bryan, all you need to do is type 3 question marks in front of your question so that I can quickly and easily identify it as a question. So Monique from London says, so is there still a Panama branch of a law firm that Bryan used in Costa Rica? I guess you can't say who they are. We're not going to say who they are. Yeah, we're not going to go down that path because we don't want to get in trouble. The bottom line is use the attorneys we recommend and you don't have to worry about anything.
From what I saw online, they closed everything and the guy went to Florida.
Okay.
That's what everybody was saying online. So it's tough. In
Yeah.
Costa Rica, there's nothing we can do. I don't know Panama. There's probably legal recourse, but down here,
Yeah,
there's
if they've already
nothing.
left the country, probably not much recourse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dave says, Jackie, thanks for doing these. Wife and I coming on the tour September 8th through 15th. Can you give guidance on tipping your guides, as I'm certain you'll have a great time? Yes, our guidelines for tipping our guides is don't tip the tour guides. You don't need to tip the bus driver. We pay them very, very well. You're coming on an all-inclusive tour, which means everything's included and there's no additional fees. No tipping that you have to do at the restaurants, no tipping you have to do at the hotels, no tipping for the tour guides. So just the price you pay for the tour, that's it. There's no additional cost unless you buy alcoholic beverages. That's not included. And I discovered that the very first time I did a tour in 2010, I'd never been around this before, but there was one lady that would drink like 5 gin and tonics and 2 margarita chasers every day for lunch. Then she did it again for dinner. And I said, it's all included, but I didn't know that some people drank that much. So yeah, I ended up losing a lot of money on that very first tour, and I learned my lesson. After that, I said, alcohol is not included. So only bring some money if you plan to drink any alcoholic beverages. Okay. I have some VA disabilities and a difficulty getting a handicap placard or license plate.
Nope.
No, you won't have any trouble getting that.
You're good.
And if you use the
use the website, use her website, and go contact the VSOs that she has on there, and they'll
get it
you
for
set
you.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Even some of the towns, there's actually besides the hospitals that are all over Panama where veterans can go for treatment. There's also some little clinics. Like we have that in Chitre, we have it in Boquete, there's one in Bocas del Toro now. So there's little clinics and they have specialists that come in to provide any treatment that you need. So you don't have to travel to the hospital and you can just go to one of those veteran clinics. It's not the VA, that's different. It's just a veteran clinic and they can arrange for you to get all of that while you're there.
Yes, they're private doctors that are very generous to deal with us disgruntled veterans. So it's very kind of them. But the benefit for them is they're billing the United States at U.S. prices. So it's a benefit for them to provide services to us, and it's a benefit to us because they're not going to nitpick like the VA does and start you out with the worst test that has nothing to do with your problem and give you some random prescription and be like, try this for 2 weeks like the VA does. They're just going to get you the best whatever test you need to find out what the problem is, and they're going to diagnose you with what's correct right away. That's a huge benefit I love about being down here. The doctors don't care about all that red tape stuff that the doctors at the VA deal with. So it's so much better down here. You could get, my buddy flew in to Costa Rica with me, and it's the same with these doctors in Panama. He had a disability in his knee. He went to the pharmacy because it was hurting. He had surgery with the VA maybe 6 months before, and they gave him an injection of corticosteroids in his knee, and he had a great trip the whole time. And he said that at the VA they did that like twice after the surgery and stopped it. And he said that he was been in so much pain ever since. And down here, he just went into a pharmacy by the beach, and they were like, "Oh, we got you. This will work."
Yeah,
You know, so it's
yeah, that's one of the things that you guys should know is that there's many, many medications that require a prescription in the United States, and there's no prescription necessary for it here. So there's the only thing that you need a prescription for in Panama is an antibiotic or narcotic. Anything else, you wouldn't need a prescription for it. And if you have that Visa card and you are of the right age, which is 55 for women or 60 for men, you'll get a 25% discount off of your medications. So you can save a lot of money on your medications here. The other thing that's really different about doctors in Latin America, whether it's Mexico or Costa Rica or Panama, is first of all, when you go to see the doctor, you're going to see a doctor. You're not going to see a nurse. You're not going to see a physician's assistant. You're going to see the doctor. And they're going to spend as much time with you as necessary, asking you a lot of questions to really understand your medical condition so that they can adequately prescribe what's necessary. And, if it means that it's a 1 hour doctor visit, it'll be a 1 hour doctor visit. They're not going to try to rush you out real quickly because they've got some other people in the waiting room. So it's a very different experience. I don't know about Costa Rica, but in Panama, most of the time, unless it's a specialist, you don't even need an appointment. You can just go right in.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here. With some things, there's with the prescription stuff here, they do require a lot more prescriptions in Costa Rica, but they'll give them to you at the pharmacy. A lot of times, and sometimes they won't charge you any fee. Sometimes they make you pay like about $40 for the prescription, the consultation, but they don't do it. They just say, "What do you need?" and then charge you for it. What's your symptoms? But most times it's not really right. The thing is down here is just things the governments aren't paying for regulators to go around and check businesses like they do in the States. So businesses can get away with doing what's right for their customers and patients rather than what's right for their governments. It's a little bit more lenient for them down here.
Mm-hmm. Right, in Panama as well. So Joseph says, does Panama have conventional municipal water and sewer service? So yes, Panama has municipal water systems, and there's multiple water systems. Like in Boquete, where I live, we have like 10 different water companies. So it depends on where you live. But in all of them, it's safe to drink the water, provided that the pipes that are coming into the house have been replaced and that they're new, because some houses that were built maybe in the 1930s or 1940s, they might have lead pipes, and you want to find out what kind of pipes are bringing that water into the house. But other than that, it's just fine. Why do some properties have a reserve water tank? So all the properties, most of the properties in Panama are going to have a reserve water tank. And the reason for that is we have a dry season and we have a rainy season. In the dry season, basically from the middle of December to the middle of April, we don't get hardly any rain at all. We lost you for a minute. You're back. So we don't get hardly any rain from the middle of December to the middle of April. Towards the end of the dry season, because we haven't had any rain, the water reserves are very low. So that means the municipal water that's coming to you could have very low water pressure, or they even might say, we're going to turn the water off going down the line, every day from 3 to 6 or 10 to 5 a.m. or something. So they will restrict the water that's going to your house. So, or that you'll have low water pressure. But if you have a reserve water tank, the water goes into the reserve tank and it fills up. And then whenever you turn on the faucet in the house, you're going to always have water. You don't have to worry about any low water pressure or any no water coming into your house if you have a reserve tank. When you're looking for rental properties, that's an important thing to ask, is if they have a reserve water tank. So question for you, Bryan, did you ever consider any other countries?
Yes, before I was moved, well, when I moved down, I had some friends that lived in Thailand, and they said it was very affordable and cheap. And I had never been to any countries in Asia, a lot in the Middle East and Europe and the Americas, but I never been anywhere in Asia. So I always wanted to go over there, but I took a vacation to Costa Rica in 2008 for my first time. I just got back from a year in Iraq, and like they did not care about the military, and they didn't care that I was in Iraq, and I was like, all right, good, this is a great place to be. I'm more comfortable like that, and they don't have a military in Costa Rica, so it's not something where it's like I don't know, looked up at as a career. So it's just something you do, and some people show interest, and it's really cool, but it's not something where everybody wants to buy you a beer and give you a gift and a discount and stuff. And I don't really like that attention. So it's I just kind of fell in love with that. I felt comfortable. And I grew up in an area in California with a lot of Spanish speaking students that I was with in school, and Native American and Mexicans, that we all grew up together. So I'm very comfortable in the Latin American culture. So when I came down to Costa Rica, I felt comfortable here. And then I ended up coming down in 2010 for 6 weeks. And I just stayed in basically Guanacaste, Tamarindo on the beach for 6 weeks. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna fall in love with Panama or Costa Rica if you sit on the beach. And I just kind of fell in love with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there. I've been to the Guanacaste area. It's hot.
It's hot. So hot.
It's very hot. I live up in the highlands in Panama where it's much, much cooler, but Guanacaste was way too hot for me. But that's the great thing about Costa Rica and Panama is you can pick the temperature you want based on the elevation. So if it's too hot, close, and you go up to higher elevation, and the temperature will be a little bit cooler. So a question.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about where you live in Panama. Boquete, is that? Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about it.
You have to come visit sometime. You'll be amazed.
Yes.
So a question from James says, Bryan, I'm a disabled veteran and I'm married and looking to retire in Panama. Hopefully Jackie can help us through the journey. So it wasn't really a question for you, but yes, Jackie can absolutely help you through the journey.
Yes, she can. She's networked with all the VSOs, and there's like 10 VSOs out of Panama. A couple of them, I think one moved to Colombia, one moved to somewhere else. So there's a lot of VSOs throughout Costa Rica. They wanted me to do it, but the problem is you need like 8 people in the country to get a VA computer, so that you know how it is going through that disability process to be able to put in your social and look at your case. Mm-hmm. We can't do that without 8 people. So I told him, I said, I don't want to be one guy in Costa Rica because I can't really help that. I'm just the guy on the phone all the time for everybody. And I said, it's different in Panama because they got guys and they can get stuff done for you. And it's no problem. Anything you need through the VA, if you're having any issues, all the support's in Panama.
Yeah, and they can make a phone call and fix it. Just like that.
Yeah, they networked, Butcher and Bliss networked with the director for the Houston VA. So he came down to their office and met everybody. He's the one who approved and sponsored the Houston VA is the one who approved and sponsored all those guys to go through the TRIP program and be VSO certified. Right. So Panama's great for veterans.
Yeah, it's a really good place for veterans. And, it's great for veterans for your medical care, but it's great for veterans because of the networking and the camaraderie that happens as well, that everybody's there to look out for you and help you in any way that you can. So someone's always got your back in Panama. You don't have to worry about that.
And Jackie's one of those people.
Yes, I'm one of those people. I'm not a veteran service officer, but I have to stay in communication with them all the time, and I'm going to do everything to help you have a smooth move to Panama as well. So question from Paul, can you get sports up to date on TV with a Fire Stick? Yes, you can watch live sports in Panama, any sports that you can in English. Or you can, if you have cable TV, you can watch it in Spanish if you want to improve your Spanish. One of the things that you'll learn is, how I don't like watching sports at all, but whenever they have sports on and those announcers, they just get really, really, really loud when it's like getting close to a touchdown or something for football. And it's always so loud. Well, the Spanish people do the same thing. I guess it's just part of sports announcer training that you raise your voice and you get real excited whenever somebody's going to put the ball in the basket or whenever somebody's going to get a touchdown. You can also go to sports bars. They have sports bars all over the country that you can go to sports bars, and people will wear their little T-shirts for the team that they like, and then you'll be with other people that are cheering on their team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And James says, my wife has CHAMP VA insurance. Do you know if this is accepted in Panama?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's the same billing system. It's in the Community Care Act, so it's the same billing system as the Foreign Medical Program. So the CHAMP VA is 100% reimbursement, 100% care. Whatever's needed is covered. The wives get better treatment than the husbands. It's cool. It's worth it. It makes it really worth it. So yeah, she's good to go down here.
Yeah, good to go. So you have COPD. So you would be able to answer this question a little bit better than I can. It says, I have a breathing problem and use a portable oxygen concentrator, maximum 4 hours. Is there a problem with altitude in Boquete? So whenever you go up to higher altitudes in Costa Rica, or if you've been to higher altitudes in Boquete, does the COPD, does that cause a problem?
No, this is my, that's my oxygen machine right there in the background. Right.
Yeah. I see it.
There. And so I have the home one. The mobile ones, so if it's good for 4 hours, the most I've done on a mountain here is just went over it. So I've been up on a mountain for a few hours and I didn't have any shortness of breath. I didn't feel pressure on my chest or anything. So I don't think there will be an issue. People ask me that before, because I live in Heredia in Costa Rica, and it's a higher elevation just for the same reason as Jackie, because the temperature is nice. I can wear jeans and a jacket at night if I want. So I love that. But I don't have any major issues that I've noticed, but maybe it's happened and I haven't related it to higher elevation. Maybe I thought it was because of something else. Because when I moved here, I started going to the gym. So there could be some issues that happened that could have been because of the elevation, and I thought it was because of my exercise and stuff. But I would say do the tour, because don't you guys go to Boquete on your tour?
Yeah, we do coastal areas, we do high areas, and we're only going to be there a few days. One of the things that you might want to do is talk to your doctor before you sign up for a tour and get their advice on is it okay to go to a higher elevation. The highest elevation you're going to be at during the tour is maybe 5,000 feet, and we don't go up much higher than that. So just talk to your doctor and see if he thinks that there's going to be a problem.
And if you look on Google enough, you may be able to see, like, at different elevations how much the oxygen levels drop, just to have an idea of what the difference would be from being on Boquete or down on the ground. But yeah, when you're down, it's the same like in Tamarindo and in Panama. If you're down in the flatlands near the beach or something, it can get pretty hot, and it stays hot.
Well,
but,
I wonder if being at the lower elevations where it's so hot, that could actually cause more of a breathing problem than being at a higher elevation where the temperature is 75 degrees during the day. So,
well, that's the thing. I was having a lot more issues where I was living before, and it was a lower elevation and very hot right near the beach before I moved here. That's where I had my respiratory failures. That's where I really started having issues. And I moved here. I haven't had any respiratory failures. So I don't think so. For me, it's not a problem where I'm at, but I haven't been to Boquete yet, so I'm not specifically sure about that.
Well, we're just about out of time, Chuck. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's really unfortunate that you lost so much money working with the wrong immigration attorney in Costa Rica and then in Panama, but I'm glad you found the right people, the people that we refer people to. So I'm glad you find the right people and that they were able to help you get your visa. And get your girlfriend and her daughter over to Panama, and you might change your mind and move over here.
Yeah, I know. I also wanted to say that when I was going through with the process, immigration process in Panama, there was a couple of people there who had went through your tour. One of them was Ciro, and he had so many great things, and he was so thankful for going on the tour. And he said it was so worth it to see all the different places. I mean, I lived there 9 years, and I want to go do the tour just so I could see all the spots in Panama and what's different and where might be good to live. Because I've been in Costa Rica 9 years, and I still haven't checked out all the places here. I'll do a couple of years in one place, a couple of years in another place. So to do that tour that Jackie provides, I think is just amazing to see all the spots right away. And then you have an idea of what's good for you and where you feel comfortable at. Just talk to, when you go places, if you're going to live there, talk to locals, because that's who you're going to deal with every day if you're living there. So make it a trip, talk to locals, find out, how they like the area and things that you're concerned about. Ask them, how are those things in that area? And you'll find
during our tours for lunch and dinner, we always invite locals that live there to join us for lunch and dinner so that they can say, why didn't you pick this area? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And what would you change if you could change anything? So that's important to get feedback from people that actually live there.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm sorry you lost so much money, but I'm glad you got on the right track and that you have your visa for Panama. So that's wonderful. Thanks again for sharing your experience. And thank you to everybody that joined us for our live stream this Saturday. So I'll see everybody next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Jack.
Bryan, thank you.
Uh-huh.